Dear viewers, today we are blessed to have a special program that is dealing with poly-economy. And this is a special program that enlightens Ugandans on how best we can improve our economy. The livelihoods of our people are so demanding. And the focus shouldn't only be on matters of governance, but yet we find it important in this program that we have invited guests to have a talk on analytical view on how the Parish model program can steer, impact our economy that is at the stage, a subsistence economy, and with the target and the motivation that we can have a middle income economy. Today in this program, we are happy to host Professor NUWAGABA Augustus and Mr. Paul KAWANGUZI. They will introduce themselves and we go through this analytical view in order to help our country move to the next level. Thank you. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, and good evening, viewers.
So right now, we can start from you, Mr. Paul,
yes,
in order you to introduce yourself to the viewers and give your understanding and perspective of this new program. For purpose of enlightenment to the viewers, we understand that of recent at Chibuko, there was a launching of a program of government which is called the Parish Model Program. And to my interest and what is interesting in this program, it's a program that many of us Ugandans desire to understand what has been the basis of coming up with a new program, yet it is not a new program. We have had other programs before. We had the Poverty Alleviation Fund, which was introduced by the NRM government, 1998 and 2001, where we had an introduction of the PMA, Plan for Modernization of Agriculture. We had the National Advisory Agricultural Service Program, which was referred as one that depended on pilot study. We were ushered into another one of another phase, which was NADS Program 2, of which it happened that I was part of the implementers at the community level. And that was to usher us to help Ugandans move not only at a pace of having what to eat for food, which we used to call food to mouth, and it ends at that. Yet now we are interested to know what transpired through that program. Again, there was Prosperity for All program, of which all Ugandans were desiring to earn 20 million on an acre per year. That was the target. Again, we are interested to discover in our talk show what will be differently achieved in this newly introduced program that many Ugandans are excited, the youth are excited, women are excited, and they are believing to come out from poverty and they earn a prosperous living. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time as Ugandans to see how we can have an embracement and an inspiration, yet with a critical view of how best we can make Uganda a better country to live in. You're welcome, gentlemen. Let's start from the right. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Comrade Joseph, Dr. Joseph TINDIMWEBWA, for this very important program. I think I need to introduce myself well. My name is Paul KAWANGUZI. I am an economist, public policy, and legal specialist. I am so humbled to be part of this program, and I want to congratulate Smart24 for actually coming up with a program of this nature. In many TV stations don't only talk about this, but many of them actually talk about the politics of the day instead. They don't talk about the economics. Yet in real terms, you cannot actually separate the economics from the what? From the politics. So I want to congratulate you for coming up with this program. I think this is a very special arrangement in Uganda, because most people want to hear about the politics, the voting, but they don't want to hear about the economics. So I'm grateful for having been part of this program, and I'm really humbled to be part of the panels. To be part of the panel. I want to welcome Professor. It is an honor being together with you here, discussing this, analyzing this. First, going forward, one, I need to appreciate the program. You know, in economics, there's what we call economic modeling. Modeling. This is a model. I am sure there's a specialist who came up and developed this model, showing how it is going to work, how it's going to operate, And of course, our role today is seeing how it basically works. First of all, I need to say it is a plus for government. It is a plus for government, one, for accepting to put services nearer to the people. The question is one, like you've heard the host say, there have been a number of programs, for example, Untitled program, NUWAGABA, NADS, and several of those models that have been actually developed. The question of the day, are these real economic models or political models? Because we need to ask ourselves, are these political economic models? Because we need to assess we need to actually find out what are the factors that has hindered the progress of the other programs that have been going over time. For example, a lot of money was sunk into NADS. What has gotten wrong with it? What went wrong? Why didn't it succeed, for example, in Tandika program? Because if I can take you back in the Tandika program, when people were given money, first of all, they were saying, this is like a casino. It's some kind of thank you from government for electing us into power. And people ate the money. There was no evaluation. I don't know whether there was even a report. I don't even know whether the report was acted upon. Because we are having a situation where money is taken back on the ground, and at the end of the day, it's just what? It's just swindled. And of course, I have issues, for example. What will be the selection criteria? What kind of people qualify for this money? Because first of all, the viewers need to know that they are giving 17 million shillings per parish. Now, in Jinja, where I come from a parish called Chibibi. It has about 7 villages. Now you can imagine, 7 villages, you are going to share 17 million what? Shillings. First of all, if the problem in the first programs, in the earlier programs that we talked about, was recovery and usage of these funds, how sure are we that this money is going to be used to effective what? To effective use? Will it really serve the purpose? The other question would be, what if people take this money and they don't use it? Do you have a mechanism of recovering it? Or it will go into the political sense that these are our supporters, we should not go for this money. I think Ugandans and other people need to know that this money, it is money from the consolidated fund. It is taxpayers' money. Meaning that what I contribute as tax, what I pay as tax, and what other people pay as tax is now consolidated and apportioned. Of course, it's apportioned by Parliament. So, after being apportioned, this is our money all. And now there's a group of people who are going to get this money and use it as though it is just a casino from government. We are giving you the thank you. Please take it and use it. Even if we don't pay. Of course, there's been allegations, for example, that the distribution of this money has been, for example, political in a way. Even getting most of these things. That it is always given to strengthen the leadership of the NRM on ground. I think we need to investigate this professor and other people. Because if this is how it is actually apportioned on ground, then it's going to have...
Mr. Paul, are you saying that according to maybe the example you are giving us from Jinja, that the accessibility of these funds that are intending to uplift the livelihoods of the people from a subsistence lifestyle of only food for mouth to earn a living and improve the cash economy, which Professor will be able to give us more enlightenment about. Do you identify any achievement so far, or totally from the time we have been able to give a background? Is it that nothing has been at all achieved, or we can be able to identify or observe some achievements?
I have been so much into this. One, I have been part of a team that has written alternative policies for this country, especially for the opposition. And we have always analyzed what has actually gotten wrong. For example, in NADS, it was always presented in committees that in many districts there are no agriculture extension workers. They are not there. But the word is National Agriculture Advisory Services. The main role was to give advisory services. Those people on the ground. Now, you cannot implement anything when you don't have these people. And what government did was make sure that now they bring in the army to take charge of the program. That's why I was asking whether this program was actually political or economic in a way. Because this is my biggest problem. I'm saying government is always having very nice programs, for example, very nice ones, but the implementation and the spirit in which they actually come. Now, some people have already started looking at this as a way of preparing for 26. those who are having political glances. The government is bringing this after the failure of maybe Myoga, after eating that, now they are bringing what? The parish development model. Now, this is my concern. The program is good. For example, it has given employment to people. You know, when they introduced this, parish chiefs were recruited. People who had certificates in public administration and diplomas were eventually recruited as what? Parish chiefs. They are going to get some money. Those who are jobless, they are going to get some employment. That is actually a plus. Because for somebody who was seated for years there, and an opportunity comes up. So this program has created employment to the one inch down. But our problem is implementation. Will it really succeed? Is the money enough? The selection criteria. Which persons will actually be selected? Is this person going to be selected on merit or after some orders from some persons in government? Because we're always having these programs being hijacked by government officials.
Thank you so much.
The ESOs, they'll say, give to this one, give to so and so. Yes. This one is our person. Don't you think some of these things, the failures, the challenges that were in the other, for example, when the president was launching, before I even leave and give it to Professor, he was saying, we ran away from the other programs because the officers at the district level were what? They were corrupt. No, that was a serious statement. Very big statement. So the officers at the top local government, at the top local government, at the district levels were what? Were corrupt. Has this been sorted? Won't we see corruption again at the parish? Won't it be eaten?
Yes, so Femina will be coming back to you later, but thank you for your submission, your analytical view about the parish model program, and we are still on course, targeting on how this program can steer or impact our economy so that we can realize the shift from the subsistence economy to a commercial economy, what Professor normally referred to as a cash economy. Professor, once again, you're welcome. Please, back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And good evening, viewers. We need to thank Smart 24 for this wonderful program and initiative to educate and also sensitize, I hope, the public on matters of economy and also on matters of public policy, because these are the pillars, these are the benchmarks for economic transformation. Also, as Paul has said, it is not good for the media houses to concentrate on politics and forget that politics is really intertwined with economics, and then you have political economy, which is the rationalization of resources and also in the distribution of equitable resources, however small we have. So I want to congratulate you, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
We can proceed on, and you give us your analytical view, because Ugandans are waiting to hear from Professor Augustus NUWAGABA, our chief, our consultant in our national economy in matters of the national development plan and so forth. We are blessed to be with you, and we would like to have the experience of which most of the Ugandans have come across, appreciates how you do articulate, remembering the common person on the ground and understanding the nature of our current economy and how other countries possibly have done it better. We are still expectant to get the best from such. Professor, you're welcome once again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, one of the major problems we have had is that the economy has been growing. We have had a very, very high growing economy. You remember from 3.4 to 3.5, to 4.7, 6.3, we went to 9, we went to 11.1. Then we came back to 6, to 5.3. This year we grew up at 1.9. Now, the major problem of this growth, for most of the years, 20 years, it has been around 6% growth. Now, what do we mean by that? Is that the growth, when we talk about growth, or economic growth, it means the increase in monetary value of goods and services, total monetary value of goods and services. For all Ugandans, non-Ugandans, Bazungu, China, Indians, the moment that they are here in Uganda working in the territory called Uganda, the way you know this map of Uganda, We calculate all the businesses they have and the services, monetary value, calculate the expenditures that they have incurred. Total is $37.2 billion. That's what the GDP of Uganda is. If you want to compare it, the American GDP is about $24 trillion. That is followed by China. China is about $18.4 trillion. And of course, Germany is the best economy in Europe and is the fourth in the world. So that's how it is. So what has been the problem? The problem has been that this so-called growth does not reach down. This has been really the problem of government. We talk about the growth is high. At one time, Uganda, we were the third. I think around 2007, 2008, we were about the third. The first was Turkey. The second was Peru under President Alan Garcia. The third was Uganda. And remember, we didn't have electricity at that time and so on. Since we now have electricity and roads probably, it should change. And Uganda is growing at a very high growth rate. This is undisputed. But what is the problem? The problem is this growth is not felt. It's exclusive growth. The people at the grassroots level do not identify with this growth. That's what the problem is. So what the government is trying to do, I'm not the spokesman of government and I'm not clamoring to be one, is that I hope they are trying to see how they can bridge this gap with the macro economy that is growing at a very high rate, and the micro economy which is not identifying with this growth.
Professor, before you go forth, as you bring in on board the discussion about our economic growth, outside there, many Ugandans are aware of what is happening in East Africa. And it is clearly identified that Tanzania has gone ahead of us. The declaration as per our GDP in the East African context require Uganda to be below as per the increased economic growth. And ultimately, for Tanzania, it has been able to hit a target that we have always yearned as Uganda, that we refer to as a middle income status. And yet, with Kenya, we are aware that Kenya is ahead of us.
Kenya reached a long time ago.
Kenya reached a long time ago. Then Rwanda, there is also a projection that they are doing better than us. What, in terms of implementation of this program and the general economic perspective on how we can impact the lives of the people vis-a-vis the actual growth, what might be happening with Uganda? Please.
Is that when you look at growth, you know, when you say growth, you need to know where this growth is coming from. So the current GDP for Uganda was $37.2 billion. We have rebased it recently.
Professor, would you simplify it, GDP to
the GDP, which is the gross, GROS product, which means the total monetary value of goods and services, yes. The total calculation, total addition of people, what they are doing, and they are getting some money out of whatever they are doing. Total value of that. And what you must be in the territory of Uganda. In this, it doesn't matter whether you are Paul, whether you are Augustus, whether you are Joseph, whether you are Muzungu, whether you are Muindi. The fact that you are working your businesses within Ugandan territory on the map, we calculate it just to make it simpler. We calculate it, total it up, it is $37.2 billion. Okay. But now what people need to know is where does it come from? Yes. What is the structure of that? If you want in Uganda, who is contributing to that? Is that services, which is telephones, actually the first one, telephone, banking, tourism, and then the transport, a little bit with these borders and so on, are contributing 43.3% of that GDP. So that GDP is coming from services. Yes. Actually, that is exactly where the problem is. Now, agriculture, which is employing 76% of the population, contributes 23%. to this GDP. And in the 1960s, it was the other way around. The agriculture, which was employing 80%, was the one contributing like 60% to this GDP.
Yes.
But now it has changed. The GDP obugaga bonna bwa Uganda comes from services, which is these telephones, followed by banks, followed by tourism, followed by a little bit of this transport. Now, the question is, which is very simple, and I want to ask every Ugandan, how many people are employed in these telephone companies, in these banks which are foreign owned, and so on. And the people who are working there are less than 10, actually, to be very specific, they're about 11.2%. But remember that in the 1960s, the cooperatives, the agricultural growth centers were the ones employing these people who are contributing the largest to this GDP. Now, in the simple English language, let's leave economics. Just in the simple English language, it is that the economy is working upside down. Exactly. The sector, which should be the one contributing to GDP, is not the one. The sector which should be contributing to GDP should be the agricultural sector, which at the same time employs the largest number of people.
Professor brings something interesting. Now that we are dealing with the subsistence economy and very happily receiving the implementation of the program, which is the Parish Model Implementation Program. How is it likely to bridge the gap which has been existing and which is still a dilemma we are still in?
Because thank you. That's where the parish development model comes in.
Yes, please.
I hope that's how I not participate actively in its development, but I hope this is where it comes in. To bridge now this gap between the macroeconomy, which is doing very well, and this is true. Yes. Every economist who really cannot, nobody can dispute that. That at the macro level we are doing extremely well, but because of the disjointedness of this macroeconomy with the microeconomy, is that the parish development model comes in to bridge this gap.
Professor, and as my brother will also be coming, Mr. Paul, I'm happily here to have information shared with the viewers about what exactly the pillars of the parish development model, and which is 7 years as you brought it forth, and beginning the first one, which is production, processing, and marketing. This one I've drawn it from the extract of the ministerial statement that was made recently. And the second one is infrastructure and economic services. The third one is financial inclusion. The fourth one is social services. The fifth one is community data. That's the community information system. And the sixth one, governance and administration. The seventh one, interestingly, which we're talking about, is the mindset change. So we look at these pillars, and in our analytical view, and looking at how these pillars can be realistically deliver us to shift from the subsistence economy to the middle income status. To dear guests, how do we emerge these pillars, and considering the nature of our economy and the challenges, the upside and downs we've gone through, and the paradox of where we are looking at, whether our economic base should be contributed higher, especially the GDP, by the telephones, by tourism, and the banking. And to dear viewers, which is the question of our discussion, it is a bit disturbing where we find that our economic base as of now, our GDP, is not basing on agriculture, which to the best of my knowledge, agriculture should be contributing to the national economic growth than any other sector. Dear guests, what is your view and maybe recommendation on how best we can realize this to be impactful to the targeted government economic targets? Back to you, Mr. Paul, as Professor will be coming in. You have 5 minutes, and Professor will be also taking us.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph, for the pillars actually that you brought forth. I want to appreciate Professor for elaborating on the real problem in the country. The problem is actually, when they declare these figures, for example, when the minister comes and reads our GDP, every person on the ground is actually asking, so where is this money? Who is owning this money? And of course we explain it. You know, in this country, this is a country where you find TINDIMWEBWA owning about 100 buildings, 100 structures. And you know, in the computation, it's taken as such because they get all this value and add it together. So, like I put it, this model is actually intended, like I said, the intention of the model is right, to bridge the gap between the rich and the what? And the poor. To bridge the gap between the macro and the microeconomics, like Professor put it, which is actually right. But the question of the day is, do you think this is going to work out? Owing the challenges that have been actually encountered in other former models, like we've actually enumerated them, from the first one to the last one. Have these problems been solved? Because we are having very good models, very well articulated, but the implementation, shall we really achieve it? Do you think we shall achieve processing at village level? For example, when there are issues of selection, who is going to be selected? Is the selection on merit? For example, who qualifies for this money? Is there a system that is going to kill out the corruption? Are we going to, for example, limit the intervention of the people from above? That this has said, the this has said, the this has said. Because we must make sure that this money goes to the rightful what? The rightful person. And like we've already said, for production purposes. Yes. Because they may leave the money, they may give money to TINDIMWEBWA, who is having nothing to do, for example, to use it, for example, in production, and leave somebody who is actually doing something in production and processing. Because we've had those situations. You'll see politicians encouraging people, you go and open up, you get this money, use it. This is the only chance you have from government. Go and get it. Not even using it, but go and what? And get it. So in my opinion is that government needs to be tough this time around. We've been so soft. And if this program is not political, if it's not typically political, of course there's no, you can separate the politics from the what? The economics. If it's not political, because people should not conceive it in a political sense, that this is a reward we are trying to throw back. It's a throwback. Like it has always been perceived in other programs, for example, in Untitled programs. That Museveni is only giving us money to appreciate us for the last what? For the last vote. So, you know, the mindset has obviously to change. But who is going to handle the mindset change? Is it the party chief? Who is going to handle that? Are people really, who is going to wash away this kind of thinking? That this money is intended for production, for processing. Now, are we going to have the same people, the same actors, that are DCs, who have been giving people orders, cheats, please give this one? I think the same people, the same actors that are going to have, or this is a technical project that is going to be actually looked at differently. So, in my view, if those issues are sorted, one, the selection criteria of the people, the recipients, are we giving the rightful persons? How are we going to stop people from misusing this money, for example? You've given me the money, then I go use it, for example, for marrying another wife. How are we going to stop it? How are we going to stop that? Is there a mechanism? Has the program forecasted all these challenges? Because they have been happening. Or we have only changed the program, the naming of the program, and say this is a parish development model, giving it a different name. I remember the former Prime Minister had actually proposed a sub-county model. Yes. In his campaigns.
Yes.
Japan.
Yes.
And some people are saying they copied it from here, which is also a good thing. Because for him, he was saying, let's move from the district to the sub-county.
To the sub-county, I remember.
You're getting the whole thing?
Yes.
Then here is the NRM saying, let's move from the sub-county to the
parish.
To the parish, which I said is a very nice thing. One, I talked about the amount available. There's 17 million shillings. Looking at the inflation, Professor, in the country, the value of 17 million shillings currently in Uganda, maybe in terms of 1986, it could be some good money. But 17 million shillings currently today? First of all, me opening an account, in the current situation, opening an account, I have been in the villages, people mobilize groups and they say we need the money to go and open what? Accounts. So people have again to mobilize even to open accounts, and it requires some good money. Even the documentation, most people don't even have IDs. You realize most people, I have been following up, for example, these girls who want to go out to go and work. Many of them don't even have
labor export.
Yeah, for labor export. They don't have national IDs, national identifications. So this is a challenge, and this is something that has to be worked out. So, like you realize, we need to be sure that we are giving money to the rightful persons. Are we giving money to the rightful people? Can we recover it? Because if you want to be sure that this money will come back, you must make sure that the money is given to the rightful person.
So you remind us here that the first pillar, if we are to realize production,
yes,
processing, and marketing, and which we should be leading us to value chain development. It should start with the identification of who is in this category of the first pillar. Is there a realization and a deliberate move to have production,
exactly,
processing, and then market?
Of course, they're talking
chain.
about getting
Yes,
information from the villages, getting information of the people who do that.
Okay.
But do you have the information already? That so and so TINDIMWEBWA is doing A, B, C, D. So this person needs what? Needs help. Or we are just going to encourage people to make circles to come for this money. Because there's a difference. Finding TINDIMWEBWA and myself and Professor, when they organized maybe in a circle or in a company, is different from telling them, please go and make a circle and you come for this money. You know, it's like pushing them. It's like pushing them. So like we earlier discussed, development must come from within. Somebody must have started something already. You cannot just say, go and do this. That's a lazy person. Actually, some people even think that the president is trying to campaign for 2020 what? 26. He's trying to organize the people so that they get money. That's why he's intending to increase. You're getting the whole thing. So if the intention is right, then let's go for people who are already in production, who are already doing the agriculture. We go for those ones. Otherwise, we may end up sowing our money on a rock. We get our money, we put it in what? On a rock that will not actually germinate. Yet we want to see the impact of this money.
Thank you so much. We appreciate for the contribution, but yet we remain very hopeful that what we have faced before is not this time what we should face again. But again, dear viewers, and those who are in implementation chain, it is important to identify these gaps so that from the start, right away from the start, we identify the trade, the lane we are trading on, so that we cannot repeat the same mistakes again. Before we go for a short break, Professor, you're welcome again to enlighten us about much more on these pillars. We are still looking at the mindset of the people and the financial inclusion, which still looks to be a challenge. Yet there is also the intended target of having a pillar of social services. How can we, at a quick, maybe terrific speed, if we can be able to achieve it, realize this and move to the middle income economy? Professor, thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, because the problem we have now is that most of the people are outside the monetary economy. It has been 68%. Now it is 39%. And this is a very big percentage of the people who operate outside the monetary economy. And this is not good, because while these people, about 4 out of every 10 are outside the monetary economy, but they also need medicine, they get sick, they go to the hospital, they need drugs, their children are in school, they need textbooks, they need all government services. And yet they are not contributing anything. So what the government is trying to do is to ensure that they now broaden the people who can be in the monetary sector. And once people are in the monetary sector, then of course in economics we are creating aggregate demand. We are increasing aggregate demand, and once aggregate demand improves, then also government now increases revenue. And now, what are you going to do to ensure that, as we have already asked, to ensure that these things are realized? This is where the problem is. Because Uganda, you know very well, we produce very, very good documents. We come with very, very big words, multidimensional analysis of something. We always come with the Minister of Health at the minimum health care package, which won a medal in 1999. Chris Chiongo was our minister. Yes. I remember in New York. Yeah. So we, as a country, we are very good. People are very brilliant, and we come with very, very good things. But I really do not know what happens when it comes to implementation. As Paul has said, I normally satirize it. You have a very big head, A big head is resting on lean shoulders, and then the lean shoulders are being held by stunted legs, where the big head is the macroeconomy, the policy, legislation, implementation, frameworks, and action plans. Very good. Then you come to meso level. Meso level are institutions, the inspectorate of government, police, the judiciary, the courts, all those are the government departments, MDAs, all those are at meso level. This is lean shoulders. Then it comes to implementation, which is at the small legs, stunted legs, as if the children have been suffering from marasmus and polio. This is how the economy is structured. But it should have been the other way around. It should have been very big legs, very big shoulders, and which can hold now that head at the macro level. So what we need to do, in my view, are two things. One is correct strategy, to make sure that when you are coming up with a strategy, and I can give an example of South Korea. Yes. South Korea under General Park Chung-hee, this lady whom there is in prison now, Park Geun-hye, is the daughter of General Park Chung-hee, who was the president of South Korea in 1954. For them, what they did, they got this kind of money as well. For them, they were lucky. They were
the Parish model money rate.
Yes, exactly the same thing. Exactly.
How would they distribute it if maybe we can borrow relief?
For them, they were lucky. The money was coming, of course, from US.
Yes.
US. You know, development in economics is initiated from within, but propulsion can come from outside. So it is also not entirely true that you don't want to listen to anybody because you know you will develop yourself. It is also, you need guidance. You need to copy what others have done. So in this case, South Korea did two things. Only. That's why South Korea now is one of the largest, the ones who make the Samsung, one of the 10 largest companies now. And they are the ones giving us the big donors here. What did they do? Got the same money. Same. Worked on mindset change. Mindset change.
Yes.
The president, General Park Chung-hee, told the South Koreans, if you get this, you got the same money. If you get this money, I give you the money. For him, he was giving companies.
He was giving companies.
Not households. And if a company that is registered and is a corporate entity, you misuse $1 out of that, you are really in for it. Yes. And I don't want to say here on television what you would do. Yes. But it was really punitive. It was extremely punitive and so costly that nobody would dare do it. So he caused mindset change. You must make sure this money is used for the purpose it is intended for. And that's what happened. Then number two was wiping out corruption. Exactly. He was wiping out corruption. Between 1954 to 1974, General Park was even assassinated himself because of these, the measures were so punitive. When McNamara was president of the World Bank, 1974, is that the government, you know, they established, South Korea has one of the most efficient and the strongest national planning authority. Government was at the center of ensuring that this money does what it is doing, and if anybody diverts, then you are really in for it. And so those two things, no corruption. The money does what it's supposed to do.
Yes, sir.
And there's mindset change. South Korea, between 1974 to 1954 to 1974, South Korea achieved two things. One, South Korea, by the way, you can even Google it now, is the only country out of 192. Me, I've been looking at these countries, each country 100 years ago, looking at what exactly happened in these countries. 100 years ago, I've been using projective techniques. Instead of future modeling, I've been using modeling but going backwards, which is retrospective modeling. Two things happened. One, South Korea, among all countries, we have 192, including Monaco and the Papal State. Vatican is the only country out of the 192 that has paid back the debts to zero. The other money to received from US paid to zero. Number two, it is the only country in 192 countries where we have records that the money which they got from outside, can you imagine, caused the transformation. these are the only country we have. Causing transformation based on, remember, mindset change and the correct strategy of government.
I'm going to draw thank you so much. I'm going to draw understanding so much nearer. It's a good model to copy from the South Korea.
Yes.
I've heard from you from time to time, also referring to Singapore. Maybe another time we will hear from you about that. And also Malaysia.
No, they are not different. They were not different.
Yes.
Most of them were the same.
They were the same. But now we come nearer closer to Kenya. Kenya, its economy is also the agro-based economy. And part of such related pillars, we've talked about the financial inclusion. I'm in total agreement with this pillar of mindset change is very important. Yet, it remains a debt to the government how it should invest in part of its investments while implementing this program, how best to transform the mind of the people, of the person.
To do the right thing.
To do the right thing. Professor, I've come also on this very point, but which maybe you will be able to discuss with us later after we come out from the break, back from the break. There are exactly outlined priority commodity list for the Parish model. I look at the list, 18 priority commodities that are being recommended to our peasants there, whom I couldn't only want always to regard them as peasants, because we are beginning to change the minds from here, that they should know they are commercialized persons to go and impact our economy, not only for subsistence farming. And with these commodities, which are outlined according to the statement of the minister, they are referred as part of the strategic planning and financing. They refer to coffee, cotton, cocoa, cassava, tea, vegetable, and so forth, up to 18. We remain also wondering whether the exact identified commodities and how they connect with the market value chain.
Absolutely.
Because it remains now a question of debate as we go for this implementation, whether the identification by the technocrats and whosoever came up with these commodities, and vis-a-vis with our country terrain of investing in agricultural productivity, whether are these the realized and approved commodities that can change our economic status? For 3 minutes, Professor, you will give us that background, as we will also go for a break for a short time. Thank you so much.
I think what the government is doing there is, in economics, what we call not comparative advantage of these classical economists, but I think of competitive advantage. These days we are not talking about comparative advantage. Competitive advantage. When you look at our competitiveness, this is where we are competing. Because are you going to tell me that you are competitive in manufacturing a Mercedes, Mercedes-Benz? You cannot be competitive really now at this juncture in manufacturing Mercedes-Benz. But we can be competitive in manufacturing tomato sauce and ginger and so on and so forth. So we need to begin with what you have, you know?
We begin with what we have.
What you have, and then our understanding, by the way, is that after the 76% of the population in agriculture has been empowered, this is my argument, has been empowered, this 76% has been empowered, it has gone to value chain, it has gone to manufacturing, then it can transform itself. You know, there is no country, this is also true, which has ever transformed because of agriculture. This is also true. What happened is that during the agricultural revolution in Europe, countries moved from rural areas to towns. Why were they moving? Because there was surplus value in labor. And what was happening with this surplus value is that people in Birmingham, in London, were now earning a salary, and they will now look for food. But they were not the same people who are having food in the village at the same time working in a factory in Birmingham. So you need to transform these people from agriculture to now industry. Which industry? Agro-industry. Industry. It was agro-based because it's not vehicle manufacturing. It cannot be vehicle manufacturing. It is agro-industry. And then we can transform them eventually to manufacturing, then to secondary services, then to knowledge-based these days. And then to Elon Musk to other things, the fourth revolution. But I agree that we need to do something on agriculture. That's why government is beginning with that. When you compete, where we have the largest competitive advantage, but move with these people through the stages which we know, such that which we know from now pre to industrial, to now secondary, to services, to now, and the best country there is Sasa Wasegura Muguran, in Mauritius. Mauritius is the best country. Now there is HSBC, which has done that from now sugar to textiles. You saw how Mauritius moved from sugar to textiles, to ICTs, to now banking. Because ICT, they have carpet to carpet, war to war. So Mauritius, by the way, beats Germany in terms of ICT connectivity. Why? Because they have moved from sugar, agriculture, to textiles, industry based on agro. Remember, textiles is agro. Then to services, ICT, then to banking. Now it's the best banking almost in the world. They have HSBC in the world. And now how many people in Mauritius are in agriculture? They continue moving with them. But here, remember I said that 43.3% of GDP is from a sector which is not the one employing the largest number of people, which means the growth which we are seeing at the macro level left there people. They abandoned some people, remained abandoned, then the growth went alone. That's why the people are not. So
in other words, it is the telephone, the telecom sector
and the banking
is contributing to the GDP more than agriculture.
Without coming with other people.
Then also banks.
People are left behind.
Yes, I understand you. Then banks, they are also contributing to the national economy better than agriculture.
Yes.
Then tourism. And what I would like to differentiate from what has been happening is, to the viewers and policy implementers, it is a critical point that I was able to identify from the beginning up to where we are. But with a good laboratory submission that we've made, it's high time the government to know how we can have a shift from the agro production to in the agro industry that will lead us to what we are referring as value chain.
That transition. People coming with them.
Coming with them.
Yes. How? Agro industry. Agro industry.
So the interest now that as we continue with the discussion, I will give each one of you 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And looking at what you stated before, and that is so much interesting, that neo-Keynesian economy, development is initiated from within, not outside. Yeah, dear viewers, we are going to hear from our guests. It is an interesting elaboration that you are going to receive, to know, and the government to know. What you are doing today, you should identify the nature of the very interest that you have in a production of whatever good or service. Dear viewers, when you are moving around here in Kampala, and you look at the production, for instance, of pineapples as a fruit, and from time to time, the price is not stable. Dear guests, it is one of an identified challenge. While our citizens are interested and they are working hard, but the shift and the way how government should help them, if be it this parish model, we find out that there is a need of valuing what is already being developed by those who are in the production chain. Yes. For more elaboration, we can receive your input, sir, and to you also, Professor, after him.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Joseph, for bringing out some of these very important issues. One, I want to go back first of all to the pillars. There's a pillar that touches service delivery. You know, we are dealing with processing. For example, they're emphasizing processing, production. But you know, we are looking at a country whose levels of connectivity of electricity is actually very low. We have enough power, it is around. But if you look at the number of households that are connected on the grid, they are actually very few. Now, I'll give you for example. I come from a village. Where I come from, in my village, I don't know where it is or how it is in your area where you come from.
Yes.
Hey, my village is called Kizing in Jinja City.
Okay.
We got power in actually they gave us power in having the wires passing through our land. That was around 1996. But up to now, there is no transformer in that area.
So you cannot connect.
We can't have power. Now, how do you engage in processing? How do you engage in manufacturing? So my view is that government needs to work out its part first of all, before you can think of this development actually taking place. If you are looking at development at the individual level, because if you are looking at the level of having small-scale industries, SMEs, small-scale industries at the village level, where somebody can make, for example, tomato sauce, you need this power. But if you do an assessment, few and very few villages are connected. That's point number one. Number two, if you look at the water connection. Water connection. Let me tell you, just here in Chigogwa here, if you go deeper there in Buwambo, very few areas actually even have water. Very few homes. There's a water problem already. And Chigogwa is just after Matuga. And you can just imagine. So if Chigogwa has a water problem, how about these other areas? So we need to work, of course I'm going on to the other third issue, that is the roads. The infrastructure.
Yes,
because if you can't even transport, because first of all you need to ask yourself, why are we having, for example, poor prices for goods, especially agricultural products that has been grown and harvested? Accessibility to market. People can't even access market. And of course, we say once you don't have electricity, you don't have access. In most cases, you don't have access to internet. Very few people be connected to the internet because of what? Because of power. They can't even easily charge. The alternative sources are quite expensive, like solar. You know what it means. So, in my view, government needs to put a lot of emphasis on its part, on making sure that the necessary infrastructure to cause development is there.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we cannot just say we have taken 17 million shillings there and it will cause a shift, it will cause a change in the levels of development of the people. But like we said, we need to emphasize, one, how do we fight corruption in this program? I've already told you how these programs are implemented on grassroots is different from what we saw on paper.
The mismanagement of funds.
Very different.
Okay.
You know, it's not a situation where, for example, Dr. TINDIMWEBWA will just write a proposal and leave it in there and wait. If you don't follow up and show them their cards,
we
give it to you.
We receive also from Professor, and thank you so much, Mr. Paul. And we look at the concept in 2 minutes, if possible 3. I have also come across the issue of amalgamated funds. And it is something that also we'll talk about. And we also look at these funds, the Youth Livelihood Fund Program, Youth Women Empowerment Fund, Rural Gwenzo Development Program, NADS, which is dealing with seedlings, and the Operation Wealth Creation, and CDA, to be part of what could maybe this program in terms of bridging the gap of inefficient distribution or allocation of funds. How can we emerge this need of financing the program vis-a-vis the mismanagement of funds and to realize this program of effective implementation of our parish model program?
Yeah, because that's a very good question. One of the problems that these programs have, remember yeah, 2 minutes. What South Korea was able to do is that they did what is called strategic flagship planning and budgeting. You do something and concentrate on it. That's what in English language means. Strategic flagship planning. So you have something which is a flagship.
Yes.
But when you look at this program, they want to do too many things. I don't know how they are going to do them. I don't know how they're going to do the marketing, there's infrastructure, there's information system, ICTs, production, value addition, there is social services, meaning health education. So it's a lot.
Thank you so
if
much.
they picked production and value addition, that would have
Thank you so much, dear viewers. Thank you, Professor Augustine NUWAGABA. Thank you, Mr. Paul. We have realized that there are a lot that is supposed to be depicted on. And dear viewers and the government and our fellow citizens, we believe that if we take care into all that has been cited to be very important, including the last point mentioned, prioritizing will always be good for us, and we pray that before 2025, we'll have realized the successful implementation of Parish model. But we conclude by saying a lot is still needed to be done. Thank you, dear viewers. Thank you. We continue to deliberate in this matter for another time.